One would say you are still bullish on pulsex. Most certainly, bruv. Yes. I don't know how you beat pulsex other than like, I mean, pulsex you get real yield. So let me explain that. I mean, in Hex, you get yield in its own token, and the USD value of that only goes up if more people start to value it, more people come in with fiat or other cryptocurrencies and trade versus it, and they're like, hey, I value that more than I value this other thing. And that can change as perspectives change, as you see other things failing all around us, and we're still working and we're fine. And we have a solid, fair system where there's always meat on the bone for the next participant. It's not like all the early guys have all the coins and you're never going to get any. It's like, yo, this is fair forever because as long as you delay gratification, you will get more of the system's inflation and have more coins than people who don't wait. And so it's fair in that way where if you leverage your time, you can earn more over time and you are storing your economic energy in this big ball of hex with everybody else. So we're all like using the same bank account and we just pull out different amounts at different times depending on how we want to use the capital. You know, if you exit your position and dump it all, well, guess what? Maybe people buy that up and you'll never get that entry again. So that's always a risk of that's why I think we're going to continue to see these people staking out longer and longer because the best thing in crypto is to hold long term, and getting paid to do it is quite a good incentive to do the best thing possible. With pulsex, you actually get yield in other tokens whenever you stake it, third-party tokens that can be offered up, and you have no risk of like you're not providing liquidity or anything. You can do that if you want. Anybody can do that with any coin. But with pulsex, you actually earn other coins, which you can actually sell those, which doesn't hurt the pulsex price, to buy more pulsex. So you have a bunch of these net buyer people who are just staying locked up. You know, they're not, it's not a time lock. They can pull it any time, but why would you stop a money printer? You know? So it's almost like a self-inflicted time lock, but it's not code inflicted, like code locked. It's like, okay, I have this dollar in my hand. I can leave it on the table and it'll create more dollars, or I can pick it up and sell it. You're like, I don't need that $1 now, so I'll just let it sit on the table and multiply. It's kind of like pulsex. And on top of that, and if anybody uses the DEX to buy or sell anything, they are buying pulsex. Nice. But maybe they're not benefiting from it because if they don't hold any pulsex, it doesn't really benefit them that some of their transaction trade fee, part of the 0.29 trade fee of, you know, all the trades on the system, goes to just buying up pulsex from the platform itself, and then it just burns the pulsex. So basically it pushes up the price, makes it more scarce in the market, and then it can't be sold. I've done the calculations. Like if we ever get to similar levels of Uniswap, similar levels of Binance Smart Chain, we're gonna have hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, eventually millions of dollars daily if DEX volumes continue to rise in the next bull run. Between hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars of daily extra buy pressure that cannot be sold. Cannot be sold. That's a fact. On top of the people who hold the pulsex token are staking it to earn other tokens to sell, to buy pulsex, it's like it can pump if no one buys it directly, but then people are buying it directly. So what? And so like I'm pretty excited about pulsex. Yeah, and I think there's gonna be even more pairs than there's ever been before. So there's the potential for more trades, the potential for more speculation to happen because we have all these ETH coins paired against PRC20 versions. And so that's also a speculation play, which is more volume, which means more buying of pulsex and burning it. All this stuff kind of just leads to pulsex looking pretty good. So yeah, I'm really excited about pulsex. That hasn't changed. I said everyone should protect their your sacrifice addresses. Like, do not risk that address. I would recommend you use a different addresses for everything else till pulsechain launch. Otherwise, you run the risk of losing possibly a huge amount of money. Trezor hardware wallet. If you are just using MetaMask, I don't think that's safe enough. You should probably get a hardware wallet. Links in the description. Yeah, there's no date on when pulsechain will be out, but boy, is it going to be bullish when we see that V3 testnet and everything's running smooth, boys. Tell you what. The Fed pivot we talked about. He just said today like multiple times. It wasn't like he slipped up and was like, well, we might do that, but not really. He was like multiple times, multiple questions throughout the FOMC meeting. Fed Chair Jerome Powell was like, we think the best strategy is not to just, some people suggested, hey, why don't you just crank up the interest rates, get this over with? And he's like, well, I don't want to just crank it up, destroy the economy, and clean up the pieces afterwards. He thinks there's still a possibility of a soft landing. They're just going to slowly still be raising the rates, but he's said multiple times, at least 3 or 4 times, they're looking into slowing down the rate of increases. So they're still going to be increasing, but they're going to be tapering it down. And so that is a change in their initial kind of planning. And so that's a slowing down of they kind of want to like slow it down because they don't want to just keep raising it higher, higher, higher before they can kind of see the full effects on inflation from their decisions. And so they're kind of just preemptively slowing it down because they think they want to, they kind of want to see how things play out and they don't want to overdo it and then have to do extra fixing later or cause too much issue. And so they're doing a little bit of a slowdown on the rate increases, which is good. That means they're kind of slowing down their increasing in value of the dollar, which means other things are starting, eventually. It depends how the market decide, like how quick the market decides to price that in. That doesn't mean we're at the bottom now. I still think we got some more downside to go, but that's a good sign from the Fed. Oh yeah, Uniswap tracking, like IP and stuff, that's all fixed if you use a VPN. I recommend Nord, discount in the description if you want that. If you're in crypto, you probably should just be using a VPN at this point. I made a video a while back about it, and it actually sped up some of my speeds, which was pretty cool because I think I was being throttled in some regard to like my upload and download by my ISP, but by using the VPN, it actually sped it up. So I was like, wow, this is great. And on top of that, if you ever are geo-blocked, say you're in a country that isn't allowed to access a certain site, like I think oneinch.io, if you're in the US, you can't use it. So you just go, oh, I'm actually in Germany or I'm actually in Switzerland, and you can just click a button in Nord and you just change your location, switch to one of their servers. Voila, no more geo-block. And it works for all types of stuff. It's way safer just to have a VPN than no VPN. I wouldn't recommend most free ones. No matter what they say, they likely keep logs because how else are they making money other than off of your traffic and selling it or something? Nord has like a strict no logs policy and they get audited by a company in Switzerland, I think annually. And so they've at least had several audits so far since 2018. And they've had no logs found on their servers. They run servers that are like just built with RAM. So there's not even like hard drives. And so they can't even like store anything on them. Some people have been like fudding Nord and saying like, oh, they changed their stance. If the authorities want them to track stuff, they will. And all that happened, if you look any deeper than the surface, they said in a public statement, we aren't above like the law. If we get a court order, we will follow what they say. But the thing is, they don't actually have anything to give the government if they ever did ask. And so it's like they were just posturing to say like, we don't like break the law. We follow the laws in our jurisdiction, which is in Panama, which is outside of the 14 Eyes Alliance. If you look into that, they are basically 14 countries that all kind of share information with each other on their citizens, and they force companies within their jurisdictions to store certain data. Otherwise, they're in trouble. And so that's why if you have a VPN that's based in one of those 14 Eyes Alliances, they're likely keeping some data on you, and even if they have an no-logs policy. I did my research. People have opinions, you can say what's true, what's not, but it seems like all the empirical evidence looks to be Nord's pretty good. And Richard even mentioned Nord in one of his tweets. He just said that sometimes you have to change some of the false positive flags. Like sometimes Nord and stuff will protect you from certain sites if they think it was, their stuff picks up that it's a harmful site. And so for like the ethhex.com trading thing, it wasn't, it was being flagged by Nord, and you can just say whitelist this and then it lets you in. So that's all he was saying. If he didn't like Nord, he wouldn't have name dropped them.